So I have a parliamentary inquiry. I'd like to refer Gaynoun Diop back to the nominating committee.
We would like to invite you, Brother Jonathan, to meet with the chairperson of the nominating committee.
A few moments later.
I think you're coming for a second time on this report, Brother Jonathan.
Is it proper to discuss a specific person at this time?
It was made abundantly clear that we will refrain from making any comments or observation on names here on the floor. The answer is no.
Now, all of these individuals, if it is not accepted, have the right to make a motion for referral.
Can I make a motion to have a name removed from the panel?
This is not possible because we are voting this the way it was presented, Brother Jonathan.
And this also sets the tone for the entire religious liberty.
Pardon me, Brother Jonathan. We have agreed that we will not allude to any department.
Who came up with those rules? This is censorship within Adventist Church. Folks, cordial welcome once again to another presentation with Lighthouse Beams Ministry. In this next segment, I want to ask you a question. Was the last General Conference session rigged? Think about it. Oh, come on, Brother Samuel. Come on, Elder Samuel. What are you talking about? You'll assess for yourself. You have to assess for yourself. Let's see, what's the word rig? What does that mean? If anyone rigs an election, a job appointment, or a game, they dishonestly arrange it to get the result they wanted or to give someone an unfair advantage over the matter. Now, when the names were presented, we were talking about Gaynoun Diop going to the Vatican City, signing and agreeing that the protest is over. Now we are in one accord with Babylon, with the daughters of Babylon. We do not have any difference. We shouldn't talk about our differences. Let's come together. This is the guy that was actually they brought up the point to remove him from the panel, remove him from the list, from his post as PAL. By the way, PAL is Public Affairs and Religious Liberty. Now, on the screen is the names of the directors that were appointed again, and look at the red circle. Gaynoun Diop is Director for GC Public Affairs and Religious Liberty, or PAL. Now, see what actually happened. This is taken from the Advent Messenger. Gaynoun Diop was re-elected as Director of Religious Liberty, but not without opposition. There was actually opposition. People are seeing, some people are actually seeing those things that are happening. And this is what happened. The delegates, the 61st General Conference session re-elected Gaynoun Diop to continue service as Director for Public Affairs and Religious Liberty on June 7, 2022. During the first business meeting of the day, the nominating committee provided a full list of all the names the new department heads, which was to be voted on as a group rather than individuals. Now we'll talk about why this is significant and why this caused many problems. As a result, Gaynoun Diop's name was included in that list. As the name was being read before the vote, the delegates were given the opportunity to express their concern, ask questions, or even request that the list be rejected. Now, so they actually asked, if you want to reject the list, it's open. But look at they created an atmosphere where people cannot be removed. Now look at the process. There was actually a person by the name of Jonathan that wanted to remove Gaynoun Diop, and this is what happened.
There is a comment from Brother Jonathan. Please proceed.
Yes, I have a parliamentary inquiry. I'd like to refer Gaynoun Diop back to the nominating committee.
We would like to invite you, Brother Jonathan, to meet with the chairperson of the nominating committee. You can meet with Elder Lowell Cooper, where the baptistry was, and he will gladly listen to you. Thank you kindly.
Thank you kindly. Did you hear the shock on his voice because he did not expect someone to object? Seems that things were planned in a way that there wouldn't be any objection. Now, this is what actually happened. They put the names together and they said, we have to accept it the way it is. And let me tell you this, there was no clarification on what they were to do and how they were to go about. That's why this guy was asking the question. He said, you have to go back to who's the person, Cowell Cooper, the chairperson of the nominating committee, to talk with him. So he actually, good enough, he referred him to the chairman of the nominating committee. But what will happen? We'll see. The chairman was sitting with someone who will be explaining the process of how names should be removed. Listen, take a listen.
Not supposed to mention names, only the report. There are two options when a person objects to report. The first is that they may request that the chair refer it back. That's a request. The chair can either accept that or not accept it. The second is they can make a motion. If they make a motion to refer it, then that has to be seconded. It is non-debatable, and it's either referred back or it's not.
So they were not supposed to mention name. Think about it. They were supposed to go through the list and see who's supposed to. What is the purpose of presenting this list if they cannot actually mention people's names? Hold our leaders to strict scrutiny so that peoples are rightly elected whom they feel that should be in those offices. Who should be doing that? Well, guess what? Those people were actually rejected from. Jonathan was actually rejected. He was sent away. Now, how are they supposed to? This is how they're supposed to actually deal with those names. Listen to it.
The process that we have been following is, and I understand people don't understand the ins and outs, is that we treated the request, the chair in his discretion asked those individuals to meet with the nominating committee chair to help make a determination about whether or not to accept that request or not. Because obviously the chair was not in the nominating committee, the chair is entitled to rely upon the nominating committee chair in making that determination.
So apparently they actually have to, because the chairperson at the general conference wasn't the person chairing the nominating committee. That's why they have to refer those people back to the chairperson of the nominating committee. Apparently, seemingly, is the person that is in the right position to change, to make referrals or to look into the matter again and discuss it. Well, guess what? That's not what actually happened at that time. But it was not further stated. If he rejects it, then what's supposed to be what's the next stage to take? Now, listen to this.
Now, all of these individuals, if it is not accepted, have the right to make a motion for referral. I will point out that's a single motion. If it goes up or down, it can't be renewed, and then we go from there. So that is the process we're following. It's the distinction between a request for a referral and a motion. And many of the times the comments were unclear.
Unclear. Many of the times the comments were unclear. Of course, it's supposed to be unclear. If you tell them not to mention the name, neither the department, that's what they did, not even the department, then they're going to get general critique that is not pointed, and they're not going to be clear. What did you expect? What did you expect? So what happened? Let's read on the screen. It says, when sharing their concerns, however, the chairman of the business meeting would not allow the delegates to mention any of the people's name and the department's name. Then complicated things. How can a delegate express the opposition to re-elect Ganon Diop if you can mention his name or the department to which he is being nominated? That's very true. This makes vetting a candidate for a position in an office nearly impossible. Why does the leadership make it difficult to express legitimate concerns by imposing rules that prevents you from speaking up? That's what they did, imposing rules that prevent people from speaking up. Look at the screen for yourself. This is what happened. This is after he went to talk to Cowell Cooper, the president, the chairperson of the nominating committee. Couldn't solve the problem. So he brought the situation, the query back to the chair of the General Conference meeting. This is what happened.
I'm very concerned about this panel. Over the years, our emphasis on religious liberty has changed substantially. We started out defending Adventists and the problems they had, and those problems went away. As those problems went away, we started to defend other minorities and their problems. As those problems went away, we now have entered into social justice issues. And now we do things such as write amicus curiae briefs on behalf of the Open Societies International, which is a George Soros organization which has nothing to do with religious liberty. And this also sets the tone for the entire religious liberty.
Pardon me, Brother Jonathan, we have agreed that we will not allude to any department which would clearly identify a name. We had agreed upon that, hadn't we? And you have mentioned at least 3 times that you are talking about religious liberty. If we can agree to continue as long as we abide by this. Brother Jonathan?
Whoa. Hold up. You know what I would say? The first thing, just leave my issue aside first. Whoever came up with these rules, this is unbiblical rules. I cannot voice my opinion at the very place that I'm supposed to air out my opinion and say if I want that person in office or not. You have to admit that it's supposed to be not clear. The issues are not going to be clear. They're going to be vague. They're not going to be pointed to a certain person. And guess what? He didn't even talk about the position. You said talk about it as a panel, as a list, he's trying his very best to throw general statement, but yet he cannot, because he's trying to address a issue, a critical and a legitimate concern or issue that concerns the church. But guess what? He was rejected. Look at what happened next.
I would just ask this body to think very, very carefully about the challenges that we are facing today and the challenges that divide us. And I think we need to consider very strongly the possibility of rejecting this panel, even if it's only because of 1 or 2 names on the panel, and that the nominating committee needs to go back and do its work and get us people who will respect our traditional Adventist values. We have been leaders in the world on many of these issues, and now we're not.
Thank you. We have heard you. We will go now to microphone number 5. There is someone, Prince Ngandu. I think it's Brother Prince.
Oops, sorry. The message just became unclear. Let's move on to the next one. What's your problem? And they simply passed on to the next query, because they made the situation became clear that they cannot be pointed. And when the queries are not pointed, they wouldn't be clear. And when it's not clear, they wouldn't address the issue that we're supposed to address, folks. Tell me if the election process was not rigged. It was set in the stage for those people to accept. He actually went to Cowell Cooper, apparently, clearly, to address the issue that was not addressed there. They couldn't do it. So he came back again to ask the chairperson of the committee, who recalled that he was coming the second time, yet slide it over. When he wanted to make the argument, the critique very pointed, he said, no, don't mention name nor position. Who came up with those rules? This is censorship within Adventist church, censorship within our own ranks. Do you know how our pioneers actually conducted that general conference? Those were times when they were actually fighting for truth. They were heated debates from either side, but respectfully, because they knew that they were fighting for the gospel commission's sake, for the greater good of the church. And what is this? What is this? Explain to me what's going on here. I do not understand, friends. This is the spirit of the Antichrist. This is the spirit of censorship. And guess what? Look on the screen. The motion was placed. 93%, 93.7% voted just to accept all those names. There was no scrutiny, no holding up people accountable for their past practices. How are you actually supposed to criticize a person in this kind of scenario? This is unthinkable, friends, unthinkable. You know what I've learned from my little life here on earth, in my marriage life? I've learned that if there's an issue, it has to be discussed. If you do not discuss within a marriage situation, if you leave things to take its own course, you're heading for the worst. When you do not like something, you have to open up, speak up your gut, because you'll be living with that person for the rest of your life. I'll tell you, at church there is a long way to go. Opens his mouth and talk and fix problems. This is censorship. This is not fixing problem. This is not fixing problem. This is aggravating the problem within our own. Folks, if you like the video and want to see the full video, click here. If you want to see another video just like that, click here. And do not forget to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay updated.